Forget about love. Look at the location. Before you lies the floodplain terrace of the Yamuna River, soil that transforms into a gelatinous trap after every monsoon, a seismically active region, a tropical climate with temperature swings of 50 degrees between seasons. And on this, someone decided to place a 73-meter marble tower weighing over 12,000 tons. This is not romance. This is a diagnosis. Any modern geotechnical engineer looking at the geological profile of the Agra site in 1631 would have said one word: no. Alluvial floodplain deposits are a material that breathes. It compresses under load, becomes saturated with water, migrates horizontally. Placing a monolithic stone structure on it is like building a cathedral on wet beach sand. And yet, they built it, and it stands. This is the anomaly we are investigating today. Now, the foundation. And here comes the first great lie of the textbooks. When researchers gained access to 17th century technical documentation and conducted ground surveys of the complex's base, the discovery turned out to be counterintuitive to the point of absurdity. Beneath the massive stone platforms, a system of wells filled with ebony wood. Ebony, a tropical timber of extraordinary density, over 1,000 kilograms per cubic meter, heavier than water. The masters of Shah Jahan drove hundreds of vertical wooden piles into the ground, functioning as biological springs. These wells are still filled with water from the Yamuna. And here, a paradox that destroys all conventional logic. Ebony does not rot in water, it rots without it. Oxygen is the primary enemy of organic matter. In a constantly saturated anaerobic environment, ebony petrifies. Its fibers become saturated with mineral salts, and within decades the wood transforms into a substance mechanically similar to stone. This is not coincidence and not luck. This is a calculated engineering strategy. But the system holds on one condition. The wells must remain filled at all times. The groundwater level, fed by the Yamuna, is not landscape decoration. It is a load-bearing structure. The river, whose floods were supposed to undermine and destroy the foundation, is the sole mechanism of its survival. The Taj Mahal drinks from the Yamuna, just as inevitably as a human being breathes. And that is precisely why the industrial pollution of the river in the 20th century is not an environmental problem. It is a slow attack on the building's foundation. The minarets are already showing micro-deviations. Geodetic measurements confirm the structure is slowly moving. Against all physics, it stands. But physics has not retreated. It is simply taking its time. Now, logistics. And here begins what can only be described by one phrase: a transport apocalypse. The Makrana quarry, 250 kilometers from Agra as the crow flies. Across the actual terrain of the 17th century, through hills, desert stretches, river crossings, a single marble block for the main dome weighed up to 2.5 tons. Now multiply that by 28 types of stone, by semi-precious rock from Persia, turquoise from Tibet, jasper from Punjab, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, by 22 years of continuous construction. You do not get a building site. You get a permanently operating trade network spanning half of Asia. Each day, between 20 and 22,000 people worked on the site. To move the heaviest elements, a specially engineered system of 1,000 elephants was used, dragging marble slabs on wooden sledges greased with a mixture of fat and clay. But there is a detail that official history delivers far too quietly. We do not know the names of the chief architects. Accounts contradict one another. There is a hypothesis that Shah Jahan deliberately distributed authorship among several masters to make the complex impossible to replicate. Each one knew his part. No one knew the whole. knowledge as a monopoly of power, and the craftsmen who inlaid the marble with semi-precious stones, some of them, according to accounts, lost their fingers after the work was completed, so they could never replicate it again. History does not confirm this with documentation, but it does not refute it either. The Taj Mahal is the materialized will of one man, who ground through physics, logistics, thousands of human lives, and the very geology of the region. But the stone rests on wood, the wood rests on water, and the water depends on a river we have been systematically poisoning for 100 years. Perhaps the greatest anomaly here is not architectural. Perhaps the greatest anomaly is that it still stands. The 4 minarets of the Taj Mahal stand vertical, perfect, symmetrical, straight. That is what every guidebook tells you. That is what it looks like when you stand before them. But they are tilted, deliberately. Each of the 4 minarets deviates from the vertical axis by approximately 2 degrees away from the main mausoleum. To the naked eye, imperceptible. To an engineer of the 17th century, it was an insurance policy against seismic catastrophe. The logic is brutal. If a minaret standing over 40 meters tall falls from a ground tremor, it must fall away from the main dome, not onto it. The architects engineered the trajectory of collapse at the design stage. They were not simply building beauty, they were building a controlled catastrophe scenario. But the tilt of the minarets is only the first level of manipulation. Look at the main portal. The enormous entrance arch covered in Arabic calligraphy with Quranic verses. The calligraphy appears perfectly uniform from top to bottom. Identical letters, identical size, flawless precision. That is not true. The letters are physically different sizes, and this was done deliberately. The human eye has a natural defect in perceiving vertical surfaces. Upper elements appear smaller than lower ones, even when they are identical. Shah Jahan's calligraphers knew this, and they compensated for the optical distortion mathematically. The letters in the upper rows are written 20 to 25% larger than those in the lower rows. The result? To a person standing below, the text appears perfectly uniform. This technique was known to the ancient Greek architects of the Parthenon, but the Mughal masters applied it not to geometric forms, but to living calligraphy. This required the craftsman to hold 2 realities in mind simultaneously: how the text looks physically, and how it must appear from the viewpoint of a person on the ground. The Taj Mahal does not show you itself. It constructs its own illusory version of itself inside your mind. Now, the basement. And here is where it gets truly interesting. Beneath the Taj Mahal, there are 22 sealed rooms, access to which is forbidden. The internet is filled with theories, a hidden Hindu temple, secret treasures, evidence of a falsified history. The truth is far more mundane and far more unsettling. The lower tier of the mausoleum is a system of interconnected chambers that served in the 17th century as structural counterforts. They distributed the colossal load of the dome across the foundation platform. These are not secret halls. They are load-bearing ribs, sealed in stone. But why are they closed? This is where the chemistry begins. White Makrana marble has a unique vulnerability. Its primary enemy is surface carbonation, driven by fluctuations in temperature and humidity. When marble breathes, microscopically expanding during the day and contracting at night, microcracks form in the crystalline structure. Moisture penetrates them. That moisture reacts with atmospheric carbon dioxide and forms a weak carbonic acid. The acid destroys calcite. The result? Yellowing, surface erosion, loss of polish. A process we are already observing on the exterior facades. Now imagine the basement chambers, an enclosed space, minimal ventilation, constant moisture from the Yamuna's groundwater, a massive temperature differential between seasons. These are not rooms, they are slow-acting chemical reactors. Every time a door is opened, warm outside air with different humidity and carbon dioxide levels floods into a sealed microclimate. Each such cycle accelerates the carbonation of the marble surfaces inside. The Archaeological Survey of India deliberately chooses controlled isolation, not because something is being hidden, but because opening these rooms would trigger an irreversible process of degradation that could not be stopped. The doors are sealed not to keep people out. The doors are sealed to keep air out. Conspiracy theorists search for Hindu idols and Mughal gold. The reality is more modest. Inside, there is a perfect microclimate that has protected the load-bearing structures from destruction for 370 years. Breach it, and the countdown begins. And finally, symmetry. The one point where the entire mathematical paradise falls apart. The Taj Mahal is a masterpiece of absolute symmetry. Every element is mirrored, every axis is calibrated. The mathematics of the complex is flawless. Everyone says so, and it is almost true, almost, because inside the mausoleum there is one single mistake, and its name is Shah Jahan. Beneath the central dome stand two cenotaphs, decorative tombs. One belongs to Mumtaz Mahal. Her cenotaph stands precisely on the central axis, at the geometric heart of the entire complex, at the point where all axes of symmetry converge, where all proportions and all mathematical intent meet. Beside it, a second cenotaph. Shah Jahan had not planned to be buried here. He was building for himself a mirror mausoleum in black marble on the opposite bank of the Yamuna. White and black, death and power. A perfect binary symmetry across the river. In 1658, his own son, Aurangzeb, stripped his father of the throne and locked him in the Agra fort, 8 kilometers from the Taj Mahal, from whose window, according to accounts, Shah Jahan could see the White Dome. 8 years under house arrest, then death. Aurangzeb solved the problem simply. He placed his father's coffin inside the mausoleum beside Mumtaz. No symmetry, no black marble, no mirror bridge. He simply placed a second cenotaph, offset from the central axis, breaking the one mathematical principle that governed the entire complex. It is the only asymmetrical element in the Taj Mahal. The man who built a mathematical paradise and devoted 22 years and the treasury of an entire empire to it became the only mistake in his own creation. No engineering calculation accounts for the variable of one's own son. The Taj Mahal is not a monument to love. It is a monument to the human need to defeat physics, time and death through geometry. But in the end, geometry surrendered. Not to an earthquake, not to the Yamuna, not to 370 years of tropical climate, but to an ordinary family conflict. The minarets are tilted outward to control the trajectory of collapse. The doors are sealed to control the chemistry of the air. The letters are written at different sizes to control human perception. Shah Jahan tried to control everything. But the second cenotaph stands offset. And that offset is the one thing that makes the entire structure truly immortal. Not because it is perfect, but because it is about a man who did not succeed.